Big news from the two dudes from Gallifrey. Voices from the Vortex is now on Spotify. Get your playlists ready.
The time has come. A new Doctor, a new showrunner, and a new season of excitement and adventure. And this time, the future is female. All this and more as we review the first episode to Series 11 today on Voices from the Vortex.
Broadcast amplitude at maximum capacity. Transmitting through time and space in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Vortex.
Voices from the Vortex reviews Doctor Who, Series 11, The Woman Who Fell to Earth. And we're back.
Hey, we're back, everybody! Oh, let me blow.
It seems like it's been a while.
Yeah, it has. Let me blow the dust off the podcast. Here, yeah.
the podcast console.
Yeah,
it's machine.
It has been a while, and I mean, you know, that's how Doctor Who is, unfortunately.
It's, you know, the break wasn't that bad because it was just from Christmas, right? It's October now. It's just from Christmas, but it still feels bad. Like, it still feels as bad as that year we went between season 9 and 10.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure.
Where we got nothing but a Christmas special. So I hate that it takes so long to get back to it, but it's here.
It's here. It's finally here, and the new Doctor is here, and the new writer is here, and the just new everything. And you know what? It was well worth the wait. I have to say, I was very pleased with this episode.
Oh, it was a great episode. Well, we'll get into more specifics, but like 75% of this episode was fantastic. And the 125% that I'm going to attack later was worthless. We'll get to that later.
Sure.
It was a great episode. It was really wonderful.
No, fantastic, really. I liked it. So, okay. So let's go ahead and get into this. We have a new showrunner. It's Moffat has left the building. We said our goodbyes to him a long time ago. We sang his
Moff.
We sang his praises, and we, you know, gnashed our teeth at him. You know, last year. But now we have Chris Chibnall, a.k.a. The Chibs.
The Chibs, ladies and gentlemen. Brand new.
Yes. And
just out of the wrapper.
I was very excited for him, and I think
he's still got that new Chris Chibnall smell. Like,
the new Chib.
How new this guy. How new this guy is.
Smell. I think he did a great job, and I mean, here's the thing: we're only one episode in. You know, he can kind of set a tone in the first episode, but you know, you still need to see what he can do. And to be fair, we've seen a little bit of what he can do. You know, he's written for Doctor Who before. He's not just some stranger,
right?
And so, which is why I was excited for him.
But even that, like, you felt like it might have been his stories, but it wasn't his direction. You know, he was writing for shows to be produced under another showrunner who had a clear vision and tone for Doctor Who, which is very different. This Doctor Who has a tonal shift, a very different tone than what we're used to. Right, and I think that was to be expected.
Oh yeah, at least I expected it. I mean, the tonal shift from, you know, Davies to Moffat was very apparent.
Absolutely,
and I think this was just as apparent, and it was just a different sort of thing.
Well, and he brought Broadchurch with him, so this is a very Broadchurchy episode.
I will definitely agree with you on that, and I think a lot of that has to do with it's in like a small town. He's got like the woman who's a police officer, and he's just like very like it's all very much in his wheelhouse. This episode is of like writing that like small, you know, British town kind of thing, and it definitely showed in this episode.
I agree. You know, one of the things we talked about beforehand, if you go back far enough, or just an episode ago, really, but if you go back the 7 or 8 months, the 10 months needed for this. But one of the things we talked about with Chibnall was we didn't know if he was going to bring that sort of that Broadchurch serialization, which I don't think he is. From statements they've made about this season, about it being individual episodes and individual adventures and individual monsters and no connecting tissue, which we'll get into here in a minute about possible connecting tissues. But, you know, we always thought that maybe they were going to bring that serialization in. But really what he did is he took that tonal shift of what is Broadchurch, what makes it so modern, so, you know, such a true crime thriller, and kind of applied that to Doctor Who in a way. And it does feel very different. There are one of the things I kind of compared this episode to as I was watching. There were a lot of things that reminded me of Matt Smith's first episode. The 11th Hour and The Woman Who Fell to Earth are very similar, I feel, in the construct of who the Doctor is and how the Doctor responds to the situation. But the differences within that similarity are pretty wide. I know that's kind of weird to say, but while both Doctors have to sort of, from the get-go after regeneration, they're just going and doing and reacting without the help that they're used to, without a TARDIS, without a screwdriver. You know, how do we solve the problem? And sort of that manic energy, but then the situation was very different, where 11th Hour was very, the world will end, to, some loser might die. You know, it's just a guy.
I will have, yes. I will have to say, not
the same.
Yeah, one of my, not really complaint about the episode, just one thing that I was like, oh, this is kind of different than I'm used to. For the Doctor's first episode, a new Doctor's first episode, I felt that, yes, the stakes were very low in this, as far as, like, what the Doctor was trying to prevent. You know,
I don't know if they've ever been lower. Like,
I mean, here's the thing. She had to save this one guy, right? But three people had already been killed by the end of the episode. And then there was a fourth who died at the end. So it's like, she's like -3 for, you know, like, you know what I mean?
It's true.
Yeah. So
no, it's a good point. It's a very good point.
So yeah, I felt like the stakes were low, but I still really enjoyed this episode. There were so many things to enjoy about this episode.
Oh,
and
yeah,
absolutely. I even kind of liked the more dramatic shift. One thing that, like, Moffat did was, I felt it was very fantasy. It was very fantastical, and I think I can see that the Chibs is going to bring it into more of a real, not real. I want to say realistic because it's sci-fi, but like a more dramatic, is sort of science fiction. And he still had the humor in there, and he still had all this other stuff. But yeah, it wasn't so grand and flourishing, I suppose.
Right. Well, I think you and I would both agree, and I think most people agree, the absolute best part of this episode was Jodie. I love her already. I love her. She is she's the best. She's the best. She's so good at this.
Yeah, she really is.
Nails the character. I mean, just perfect.
Yeah, I've had several conversations with this about other people. Usually, when there's a new Doctor, it takes me a minute. Like, I really liked Eccleston, and then when Tennant came along, I was a little hesitant. And then, of course, I love Tennant. And then when Matt Smith came along, I was really hesitant for a while. I was like, he's good, but, like, I don't know. I really loved Tennant. And then same with Capaldi, which it was like, Capaldi was a whole other thing, because it was like, he's great, but I don't like what they're doing with the story. And then, but then Jodie comes along, and honestly, I was so excited. I was like, I guess I had my hopes up so high. You know, I was like, oh, you know, it's a woman. I think this is going to be so great, and it's going to be so different. And it honestly was like, it was perfect. And she's the Doctor for me, like right out of the gate. Like, she's fantastic.
Oh yeah, well, and that's another parallel for me, at least, between this episode and Matt Smith's first episode. Because as you know, and as fans of our podcast will know, I loved Matt Smith from the get-go. From the first opening moments of the 11th hour, I was in it. I was like, yep, there's my Doctor right there. That's him.
And by the way, if you're new to this podcast, if you're not already a fan, if you're new to this podcast, my name is Taylor.
Oh, hey guys, I'm Matt.
Yeah,
otherwise
it's
known
been a
as The
while since
Bachelor.
we've done this. We're 10 minutes in and we forgot to say our names. That's okay.
Right.
Continue.
All right, well, good. No, that's good. New Doctor Who should always be accessible. New voices from the Vortex, not so much. That's okay. We're not even accessible to old fans. It's all right. We understand.
It's all right.
Difficult. I do. From the first opening moments. I liked her. She's an incredible Doctor already, and I'm excited to see more from her. I obviously, this is a regeneration episode. She's going to grow a lot more, so I do want to see more from her. She though, I think, was the absolute top moment in this episode. Is the best thing.
Yes,
and,
I would agree with that.
And you have to sell that. This is a new Doctor. You have to sell the new Doctor in order for all of this to work. That's one of the failings that we've talked about before. One of the failings of Capaldi was that they didn't sell Capaldi to us in his first season. He took a long burn to really like, and it wasn't until at least for me, when I went back and rewatched season 8 after we were in season 9, that I start to get what they were doing with Capaldi and really kind of understand him and like him more. And that was a mistake. That was a huge mistake.
Well,
and
yeah,
it's
we've talked
refreshing
about
to have
that.
a Doctor that right away.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about that a lot, and not to harp on it too much, but I do agree with you.
If you're at all interested in hearing our views on that, go back and listen to our reviews of seasons 8, 9, and 10. All the episodes.
Yeah, no,
I don't think there was an episode we didn't talk about it.
No, we talked about it a lot. And for me, Capaldi, I think it was until like the end of series 8 that I really liked him. And then 9, series 9, he's playing the guitar and he's got the sunglasses and all this other cool stuff. Like, okay, this is what it should have been. So I think they realized that, and they let him be free and sort of let him be his Doctor that he wanted to be instead of being grumpy or whatever. But Jodie, Jodie is she's just so good. She nails the humor. She nails the sort of heroic, inspirational stuff, and she's just like, it's, this really is like a test for like a character like this, because we always say like, oh, no matter who plays it, it's always the same character, but Jodie's so different because she's a woman. It's it's such I mean, it shouldn't be, but it's such a different like take on this character that they're like, oh, this is going to take some getting used to, but she honestly just nailed it, and when you watch her, you're like, that is the Doctor, like it's the same character, right, just channeled through this other body, and it really strikes home like how good all the other actors have been as well, and how good she is at doing this.
I will say there are a couple of issues I had with this episode. A couple of things that I felt were misses.
Well, sure.
But I want to talk about all the stuff we like first, because there's so much to like in this episode.
There really is.
So we're talking about the episode. We've got 3 new companions, which is a very crowded TARDIS. That's a Peter Davidson era attempt here.
Well, if there will be a TARDIS, we'll talk about that.
Well, you know what you know what I mean, though. But no, you're absolutely right. It's a very crowded show, and yes. I'm sold on all 3.
Oh, me too.
You've got Yaz, the police officer, and I love her. She is she's so smart, and so she's asking the questions that no one's asking. She's investigating. She's basically a human Doctor. right? She's a version of the Doctor.
Yeah.
You've got Ryan, who is very approachable and very sad, and he wears a weight on him. And then you have Graham, who is just the most adorable grandfather. Come on.
He is the comic relief. and he's great.
There's that. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, he's played by a comedian guy, a guy who's been popular for comedy. But yeah, and I love them, and I like the idea of the crowded TARDIS, because we kind of had it like we did have it in Moffat's time, but they were all like special and had their like own things. But I like the three companions because it's kind of cool because they all have their own like companion type, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So you have like the real adventurous one, which is Yaz. She wants something more. She wants to go adventuring. That's she's kind of like Clara in that respect. And then you have Ryan, who is kind of like, I don't know who he's like, but you're right. He's got this weight on him, so it's kind of like he needs this adventure in his life to show him, give him like confidence.
He needs to prove something.
Yeah.
He feels like he has to prove something, and that's a part of the disability he lives with. I think a part of that going forward is going to be because of the death of his gran and the missing father figure. But he is definitely, at least from this episode, and I'm hoping this is an ongoing thread for him, but his need to show that he can do it, whatever it is, he has to show that he can do it, because that's a part of, all three of them are pieces of the Doctor, right? Yaz is the adventurous spirit. Ryan is the weight and the need to act, the need to do, and then Graham is sort of the wise mind, the old man inside, who's seen it all and done it all, and the comic relief, as Matt Smith often was.
Well, you just took exactly like kind of what I was going to say, but you made it like 10 times better. So well done, sir.
We read each other's minds. That's just how it works.
Yeah. But I love all of them. I think they're great. They're like none of them are annoying. Like there's nothing annoying about any of them. And the thing about this episode is they really it was an extra long episode. And I think the adventure, I think this is what the Chibs is getting at with this episode. The adventure and the problem, it was very low stakes, and there wasn't a lot of action as far as like things happening, because it was more about character development. I think for him, he wanted to get all right. You had the Doctor, you had Ryan, Yaz, and Graham, all like he had to get all that character development in there as far as like who these people are and give us all this background on them. And then now that we know these characters really well from this first episode, now you can stick them in any situation and we'll see how they go from there.
Yeah, it's important to remember too. We weren't introduced to 3 characters in this episode. We were introduced to 4. The 4th being the Doctor. And that's very important because because it's a new Doctor, and she even says it in the episode several times. She's moving towards the person she's going to be. She's not there yet. She's still regenerating. She's still figuring herself out. She doesn't even know she can't even remember her name. There's just so much she doesn't have a grasp on. And this episode is what it took for us to get to know her while she got to know herself. But then we also have these 3 other people that we're like, okay, we got to remember who each of these people are and what their purpose is and why they're a part of this. So this was a very you're at a character heavy episode, but it's all about revealing character, and I think that's the strength of Chibnall. The Chibs writes very character revealing stories. Which is something that you don't often get in Doctor Who. In fact, criticisms of New Who in many different ways have been from many people that there were episodes or even seasons where you don't really reveal anything. I didn't say that. I love it all. So,
yeah.
Except fear her. Like that's the one episode we can all collectively get behind, right? It was
yeah.
Beyond that.
Beyond that. Okay, so let's talk about... Okay, so anything else on Jodie? Because, I could just sing her praises. She was just fantastic.
No, yeah, absolutely, yeah. So let's move on to some of the other stuff. But yes, Jodie, absolutely the number one thing in this episode, and those companions are the next thing down. They are just equally as amazing in this episode as she was.
So let's talk about the plot a little bit in the monster. And we've already said it was very low stakes, but you had. Tim Shaw was the sort of the villain in this, the monster. Which to me that was the funniest bit in the whole show. Every time she was like, Tim Shaw.
That was a great back and forth with her and him, where she just wasn't getting it. She just couldn't hear it. And I was like, I get you, kid. I can't hear him either. he's kind of venoming his voice. He's grumbling it like he's got marbles in his mouth.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and then you also had this flying spaghetti monster thing, which was just a bunch of electric wires floating around in a little ball. It reminded me of speaking of Fear Her. It reminded me of the drawing, the scribble from Fear Her.
The scribbles, yes. Wow, I forgot. Yeah. I had blocked that out of my memory because that episode is so terrible.
So I have to say I liked like the idea behind the story or whatever, that it was this hunt and he was cheating and all this stuff. Like, I liked that. I thought it was good. And I thought the monster was like, as serious as the show was, when he revealed his face and he had like the teeth in his face, which was really gross, but it was also like, oh, okay, that when I saw that I went, okay, this is still Doctor Who. Because it was so, it was real campy to me. That his blue face. It was
so absurd, yeah.
Yeah, with the white teeth in it. Like, I was like, okay, it's still like, people in costumes.
Right.
Yeah.
I will say it's a bold statement when your opening episode of Doctor Who is basically rehashing The Predator. But that you couldn't have picked a better movie. That's fine.
Oh, wait, are you telling me that this episode literally was Alien versus Predator?
Womp womp. No, this was not that terrible disaster of a film. This was an alien versus a predator. Yes.
Whoever wins, we lose, okay?
It's about time for one of those jokes. Zing! Sorry.
Which, by the way,
it's not a way to start off the season. I'm sorry.
We used to use "It's About Time" on our podcast, and they stole it for all this season 11 stuff. Moffat stole from us all the time. Now the Chibs.
The Chibs has to listen to us. The bad guy's name is Tim. We literally had an episode about that.
Oh my god, we did! No way!
Right?
That's so funny. I didn't even catch that. That's really funny. Oh my god.
Oh. I was laughing so hard at that. I'm like, yes! The Chibs is a fan.
Moffat turned him towards us.
Right. On the way out the door, handing him the keys. He's like, by the way,
go
to Spotify and check out these amazing guys.
Yes.
So kind of moving on.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's all I really have about the plot and the monster. Because, again, it wasn't a lot of stuff. I liked it. I thought it was
complicated.
It was a little scary. Like, there was some scary stuff. Like, he killed 3 people. Like, just right there in cold blood. But, yeah, I mean, and it was scary, but then they did the thing where they, like, pan away, and, like,
right.
And all that. So, but I liked it. I didn't really have any complaints other than it just wasn't a lot. But that's okay because, again, we got a lot of character details.
There were 2 really good jump scare moments that got me. The first, when the egg, or whatever you want to call it, when the egg cracked. Mm-hmm. We had the volume turned up. A bunch of us were over here watching, and I had the volume turned up really loud. It was very quiet scene. All of a sudden, crack, and it was like, ah. And then the second time was when they're panning up on the big crane thing, and you see the empty carriage inside. The radio is just kind of hanging there, and all of a sudden the hand just smashes on the window. So he's definitely into the jump scares. So thanks, Chibs.
Thanks a lot, Chibby.
It was it was a very simple plot, and that's something that we're not used to. Because Moffat made everything super complicated.
Oh, yeah.
More complicated than it needed to be, which is fine.
That's a good
we like
point.
Complicated stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this was really like, this was character revealing, super simple, totally the Predator, and not with Arnold Schwarzenegger. And that's it was nice. It was nice to see something that was like, yeah, I'm following from moment to moment. I'm getting this. All right, let's, good.
Well, and you're
wibbly wobbly timey wimey.
You're totally right, and don't get me wrong. Like, I love wibbly wobbly timey wimey because I can just like sit here. And you and I can like debate it, like figure it all out, and I love that. But at the same time, like sometimes it's too much, and then you lose that character development, and you're like, well, why should I care about the characters in the story? Even though the story's really cool, like, but if I don't care about what happens to the characters in it, or if I know, everybody lives, everybody's gonna be fine. There's
and
no...
sometimes...
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes there's huge plot holes. Like, if nobody could see the silence coming, why didn't they just walk up to the Doctor and shoot him in the back of the head? Like, it's an easy plot hole to have fixed, but they didn't. It's just dumb because you made it so complicated. Like, it didn't have to, this isn't a comic book. It doesn't need to be some villain scheming with this the Riddler trying to leave all these clues for Batman. And I was the homeless man from the beginning all along. Like, it doesn't have to be like that.
It's me, the Time Meddler.
The Time Meddler. Sometimes it's just a dude with teeth in his face. Like, all right, let's take it and go.
Sometimes it's just some guy named Tim.
Some guy named Tim. A lava monster now. But
yeah,
looking at the season...
Yeah, go ahead.
Looking at the season as a whole, we're looking at... so one of the things they said was there's no seasonal story arc. That was something that they announced. They said, no, this is just 10 episodes, of adventures and all new monsters, and we're done. But then, ladies and germs, the TARDIS is still missing.
Yeah.
And the Doctor, in an attempt to find the TARDIS, by the way, the most adorable face she makes. It was hilarious, and I thought it was the best moment of the episode. When she makes that face, when she's pointing the sonic screwdriver, about to turn the machine on, she's like, yay! She's got that look on her face, and it was just so funny. It was so Doctor Who. I was like, yes! It was a Matt Smith face. It was perfect. But so she uses the screwdriver, and now they're sucked into space. Da! What? Yeah. What a cliffhanger!
I loved it. Okay, so what I hope is going to happen with the rest of these episodes this is my prediction of what the Chibs is going to do, and if he does, I love it. He's going back to classic Who cliffhanger. Every episode, at the end of the episode, it's the cliffhanger for what's going to happen in the next episode. And it's like, I love that. That's going to be so good if that's what happens.
I completely agree. And you know what that felt like? What that moment for me felt like, and you'll remember this. That moment felt like when we were watching the end of Enemy of the World. The Troughton story.
Troughton, yeah.
Where they opened the TARDIS doors and flung the bad guy out into the time vortex, and they're all hanging on for dear life as the TARDIS is spinning, careening into the time vortex, and it just cliffhangered there. And that's what it felt like. It was like, what? How are they ever going to get out of this mess? It was so well done. It felt so old Who, like really old classic Who. Mm-hmm. I agree with you. I'm hoping every episode, and I'm also hoping there is no TARDIS this season. I would like to see...
So, I read an article that said, oh, is this going to happen? That there's going to be no TARDIS the entire season.
Because it's been done before.
Yes, I have mixed feelings on it, but I think that would be cool.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like, I want to see the new TARDIS, because I know it's going to be new. So,
right.
I don't know.
Well, there is a precedent for it, which is Tom Baker's first season. Right after becoming Tom Baker, and he wants to leave and he has to help UNIT, him, Harry, and Sarah Jane get aboard the TARDIS. They take off from the first episode to the second, right? And from there they leave the TARDIS, and they don't get back to it till the end of the season. They're sort of taken through a journey through time and space mostly by the Time Lords. And it was really kind of neat to see, you know, what Doctor Who could be like when you take away that mechanism that brings him, that box that brings him to the new worlds, to the new times, when he's sort of scattered there with his friends and disoriented. And that's really what this feels like, is they're gonna, I don't know how the planet appears beneath them or something, I don't know what, but I'm really hoping that the end of that episode takes them through time again, and or, you know, something, and they end up somewhere completely new because they don't have the TARDIS to get home. I think that's neat. I think it's really neat.
That is neat. And you know, this actually reminds me of another like really great thing I think that the Chibs is doing with the Doctor, is that the Doctor's like sciencey again, like more sciencey. Like she built the sonic screwdriver, and like she made them travel to space like without a TARDIS, like just using the alien tech that was available, and like, you know, like put it together and made this, and like all this techno babble.
And a microwave.
Yeah. I mean, in 30 seconds. Like
that was the best part of it.
All this techno babble, you know, and which, you know, the Doctor, I feel like in Moffat's time, the Doctor just pointed his screwdriver at stuff and things happened. You know what I mean?
Right.
Whereas like Tennant was more like, oh, you know, I made this thing, and like, oh, you know, like I'm working on this. Like, he was always like working on the TARDIS and stuff, and like I think Jodie's going to be more like more sciencey, which I think is really cool.
I do too. I agree. From what we've seen in this first episode, she's very resourceful, which is something the Doctor has always been, but we haven't seen much. Capaldi wasn't very resourceful. Capaldi just sort of pivoted. He'd be in a scene, he'd pivot to someone, he'd pivot back, never once moving his neck, and then he'd say something, and that was the scene.
You're right. He didn't move his neck a lot.
That was his move, man. And he would have that smile. He'd have totally this frown on. He'd have this frown on his face when someone said something. He'd pivot and frown at them, and then pivot back and smile.
You're totally right. I love
every
Capaldi.
Episode. God, I miss him.
He's so great. Yeah.
Rockstar Time Lord. Okay, so there's lots of good stuff about this episode. I want to go in. We're going to start talking about the production, because there's some stuff that you and I both found that we did not like about this. You go first, though. You pointed something out to me that really bothers me in other shows. So you talk about the one thing.
Oh, okay. So, the one thing that I found kind of like after watching the episode, I was like, oh, why was it like that? There was so much nighttime. Like the whole episode, like I understand it took place, like it all happened in real time, which was kind of nice. Like it all took place in that one night, but the majority of the episode, everything was at night, which one can make things hard to see, but two, I feel like it just makes the whole episode had this dark color palette. You know, there wasn't a lot of like really bright, colorful stuff. Like everything was dark and everything was like black, and even it wasn't until the end when the Doctor like got her outfit and they were in the daytime shopping that there was finally some color in this episode. Everything was dark. That was my annoyance.
I agree.
Yeah.
And that's a problem with modern day shows. I have bemoaned this to death to my friends, so I apologize, listeners. I'm going to bemoan it to you now. One of the hardest things for me, I have a difficult time seeing what's on the screen in the first place, just the way my eyes work. But when things are darker on the screen, I tend not to see the difference between the shadow and the outline, so things start blending together for me. And like as an example, Daredevil is the perfect show to talk about because that show is dark. It is purposefully filmed in the dark, and it bothers me because I'm watching a fight sequence between Daredevil and the Punisher in the first episode of season 2. I don't even know who's fighting. Like, I had to guess that it was those two characters because I can't see a stupid character on the screen. And this episode of Doctor Who had a lot of those problems where things were very dark. You were missing details on the costuming, missing details of the scene around it. There was still enough light that it was kind of playing with you know, the shades and it was playing with negative space and negative light, and it was nice. You know, it's very atmospheric and beautiful. But it made it difficult to see a lot of stuff, and whether that was the point or not, it made it very dark. And I like it when it's more bright, more beautiful, and more astounding.
Well, I'm okay with it being dark. I just like it was the whole episode. You know, I wish they would have broken it up a bit with some different color. That's just me. That was kind of the one thing about the production of the episode that was like, I was like, why?
Right. Yeah. Why? You know, why put it all at night? You don't need to. So I got to talk about something, and for me, this has become a huge problem. And right off the bat, I feel like Chibs has made a massive glaring error. And I love this episode. Please don't get me wrong. I love Jodie. I love the story. I love the characters. Everything we've talked about so far. And that's why I wanted to talk about the stuff I liked about the show first. Because I don't want anyone to misunderstand. That's why I said 75% of this show is great. This episode was great, you know? And that's that 75%. This show, Doctor Who, has two hearts, just like the Doctor. One of those hearts is the Doctor. That heart has to beat, and has to beat strong. And it certainly does with Jodie. She is the Doctor, and that heart beats, and it is beautiful. But there is this other heart that when you take it away, and they did, it kills a piece of this show. And it is bothering me. Ladies and gentlemen, Murray Gold moved on. There is no more Murray Gold making music for Doctor Who. And I defy anyone to tell me who has watched this episode, what freaking music did you remember from this episode? Because the new guy they got sucks. This is terrible. Music is a huge part of what makes New Who, New Who. It is every moment and every scene that I have loved from this show, regardless of who was in it. That music is there, that iconic sound. Even from Matt Smith's very first episode and some of his earliest moments, I Am the Doctor plays. And it is a cue for you as the audience to start feeling that rising swell of excitement because it's about to happen. The big moments are about to happen. There was nothing in this episode. I couldn't even, if it wasn't for the fact I know that music was playing because they hired someone to put music to it, if I didn't know that for sure, I wouldn't even be certain music played during that episode. With an exception of 2 points throughout that entire hour-long episode, there was nothing. It was mediocre, mundane, that drivel that they put behind NCIS episodes, and they put in just some of the worst television out there. Music that doesn't matter, and it makes you feel nothing. And I feel like they have torn that heart out from this show when they got rid of when they gave up Murray Gold. So whoever it was they brought in, I didn't even memorize the guy's name. I didn't want to. I'm so angry about this. Going forward, there needs to be that iconic music. There needs to be something that's pushing in the background. Because if there's not, this is going to be an incredibly depressing, joyless season. Because that's how this episode made me feel without that music. It pulled that joy away from Doctor Who.
Yeah, no, and I totally understand where you're coming from. I kind of agree with you. I will say there were probably 2 moments in the episode that I really enjoyed music-wise, but you're right. The rest of it was pretty unmemorable. I don't really remember much of anything. I'm sure, when they were running, there was like a dung, 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 dung kind of a thing.
Yeah, there was something there.
Yeah, there was something. But there was only 2 points. The first point is when she fell in the train and that sort of like da-da-da-dun, da-da-da-dun, da-da-da-dun started playing. And I was like, oh, that's fun. I like that they put like the theme like in the episode. Like that was kind of cool. I like that he did that. And then the other was like, I think there is sort of a 13th Doctor theme, and it was the moment when she's on the crane and she's like, "I'm the Doctor," and I like when she finally remembered her name. There was like a nice melody there, and I didn't recognize it, but I like, oh, that's probably the theme for her right there. That little melody, whatever it was, like da 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 da, something like that. So I liked those, but you're right. I mean, the rest of this was just kind of, it was just kind of, and I couldn't remember any of the music, and I think it's a definite like shift from Murray Gold. You're right, because Murray Gold had a theme for everything. Like everything had a theme, and everything was like grand and fantastic, and I think the Chibs, hired this other guy because it's more, like more downplayed, I guess. And I don't know if, I mean, if that's necessarily a bad thing, but I mean, I think it all depends on everyone's opinion, of course, but
so
I think you're right. The music does help a lot, and it's kind of sad that it wasn't quite there.
And listen, so after that ran, let me make sure I say this too. The music that's there works in lots of other programs. Okay, it works in shows where the music doesn't take precedence, where the music isn't a character. Okay, when I listened to that, when I went back to watch the episode and was listening to the music, in my mind, I kept thinking, and Broadchurch is a really good example. It reminded me a lot of Broadchurch, where there is music in Broadchurch, but you don't really hear it because it's so subtle and so it's mood music, and it's just sort of in the background. And it works in Broadchurch. Broadchurch isn't defined by its music, but Doctor Who is defined in part by its music. And it has been since it came back.
Yeah, you're right.
The old show had nothing, right? The old show had little stings. Exactly. It had the synthesized stings that it would just throw in there to pontificate a moment, and it was done. But since New Who has come back, it has been beautifully composed. And that has become a piece of what makes it Doctor Who. And I apologize sincerely. I'm going to butcher this man's name. I have never heard it spoken before. I've only seen it read, so I apologize if I butcher it. Segun Akinola. Segun Akinola, who's the composer for season 11 for all 10 episodes. I am sure he is a fabulous composer who's done wonderful things and will go on to do wonderful things. But if this is what he imagines Doctor Who should sound like, he needs to be fired now. Bring someone else in, because this man does not get it. He is going to kill a piece of a program that I love because he does not understand Doctor Who. So that's
I can only I can only hope that the rest of the show, the rest of the episodes, they're going to be all different, and you'll have maybe you're on an alien planet, and there's going to be some better different kind of alien music and fantastical music and stuff like that. So I don't know, but and some real emotional stuff coming up here with other stories that we know. So I can only hope, but you're right. It does take something away, and that is unfortunate.
Yeah.
And
we'll
so
see.
I agree.
I do remind myself that the very first episode of Eccleston's run, there's almost no identifiable music. I go back and listen to music from that episode, and I even some of it I hear and I go, I don't remember that. Rose's theme is the only thing I remember. That sort of haunting, Bad Wolf, who is the Doctor kind of music in the background. It's very wispy and it's very iconic, and it's been used over and over again. Yeah. That was very identifiable, but there's so much music from that episode that I kind of shake my head and I go, it doesn't sound like Doctor Who. It doesn't sound like anything. So it's always, but as the season went on, there was more and more identifiable music. So it's very possible that this is just our introduction. This was a smaller first episode. It was meant to be more grounded. The stakes were very small. the relationships were very personal. Character was revealed. So maybe we're looking at as a composer, he wanted to make it feel very small and very, very muted and very moody.
Sure.
And it'll get more grandiose over time. That's my hope. However, I don't have high hopes for it. So we'll see. We'll see where we're at. Give it a couple episodes and see if I'm still ranting about this when we get halfway through the season.
Well, I really liked so I went back and checked out that sort of I am the Doctor moment, and I really like that melody, that sort of, it's probably 13's theme. And I have a feeling, I can't hum it right now. I don't know how it goes, but I'm sure by the end of the season it'll be like, one of those things like I'll know exactly that little melody because I'm sure it'll be used a whole bunch because it was really nice. So yeah. The only other thing in the production that I actually liked in this episode that I thought was really cool was in the beginning of the episode when he goes down to fetch his bike and that like thing appears behind him, like that like light thing up in the air, and he like pushes the button, that looked really, really good. I loved that. I was like, this is awesome. Like all the effects we've seen for Doctor Who, I was like, this is really, really good. I liked that a lot.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that was a very good effect. And I remember watching it thinking, that reminds me a lot of Doctor Strange. Like that type of special effect. I was like, I like that. It's kind of bringing the magic back to the science a little bit. It's like, what was that? I don't know. Who knows what that was, but it worked. So,
well, and
that was pretty cool.
We used to talk about as we went through the older New Who stuff, and talk about how the quality just gets better and better with each season. You can see it in this season. I think the quality of this season is even better than last season Doctor Who. Like even just in this first episode, you can tell. It's just shot so beautifully, and it just looks so crisp and so awesome.
Well, didn't they say they're using new cameras for this season?
Oh, I didn't know
they're filming it the way they film movies.
Oh, well then there you go. That's what it is.
They've got a whole new. I mean, we're new showrunner, new Doctor, new cast, new tone, new composer, new cameras, new process. Like this is really a complete shift. This is a pivot. This is a Capaldi pivots to frown at someone and pivots back to smile. That's what they're doing here. They pivoted.
They're doing the old Capaldi pivot.
The Capaldi pivot didn't even move his neck. Well done.
And I love. So far, I love it. I think it's everything about it is great. So, all right. Do you have any favorite little moments or quotes?
So normally I try to pull a couple of, and there were some she said that were in the trailers that she, I have a mini rant, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. If this is your first time listening to us, I don't rant this much in an episode. It's just there's so much to talk about because so much has changed. There were, if I can remember, there were 4 times in the episode where she pontificated. She said something very, catchy and wise, and that sort of fortune cookie wisdom. The one thing is true: if somebody needs help, I always help them. And there were like 4 times that she recited something, and it really got on my nerves because it wasn't her; it's Chris Chibnall writing to the audience. And that's fine. Moffat did it too, and Mark Gatiss did it, and everyone's done it. Don't get me wrong, Davies did it all the time. It's just this specific selection of things she was saying that was being written for the audience was Chris Chibnall saying, "Hey, this is what we're doing. Get used to it. We're moving forward." I get it. I don't need to hear it. Like, just show me. You're doing such a good job showing me.
Yeah.
Why would you stop and say it?
And it was 4 times. 4 times in one episode. It's a little overkill.
That's more than most people write, and they're all different things. I'm not trying to say it was 4 things she said was the same thing. I can't remember off the top of my head. I didn't do enough research for this, and I apologize. We're usually better equipped for this, but yes. It was just it's like every 10 minutes or every 15 minutes, I felt like she was saying something, and it was like specifically directed at the audience. I was just do the episode, man. It's fine. But anyway, I don't have any favorite quotes from this episode. There were plenty of good ones, and I think my favorite moment is her falling through the train and just popping up, just like ready to go. That was my favorite moment from the entire thing.
Well, that was great because I expected to see her. I expected it to start with her falling, and she like finds some fantastical way to like not die, but nope, she just like joined this like in media res, like in progress. She just falls in and then she's there.
Can I also point out that we just saw a trailer released not too long ago for Captain Marvel, in which a woman is going to literally fall to the earth into a blockbuster. What's with writers writing women falling to the earth? Like it just all of a sudden, like, we got a couple of examples when we've never had an example before. That just seems weird. I don't think it means anything. I'm just saying it's weird.
I had a few quotes that I wrote down, and I liked. So of course, Tim Shaw was the funniest thing ever, and then
Tim Shaw.
Eat my salad, Halloween. That was hilarious when that drunk guy was throwing his salad at the alien. I loved that. That guy was that whole scene was hilarious. And then I wrote this because I really liked it. It's that sort of regeneration humor where the doctor, and like body humor where the doctor, she couldn't remember the tip of her. What's this thing? He's like, tongue. Oh, tongue. That's right. It's that whole like kidneys kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I don't like the color. That kind of a thing. Or the ooh, new teeth, weird, that kind of a thing. So I liked that. That made me laugh because it was like, oh, it's the body, it's the regeneration body humor.
Did you catch the Eccleston level of sort of sassiness that she gave him when Tim Shaw came for the pile of flying spaghetti monster, and she does this long thing like, you're not getting to it and I'm standing in your way, and then he said something and she's he says she's like, you came unarmed, da 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 da, and he says, yeah, but I cheated or whatever, and she goes, oh well, no, go ahead and take it, whatever, like sidesteps it, and she's like, oh, just go ahead, and like she just gives him this like brush off, like she's like, yeah. It was very Eccleston-y sass, and I liked it.
Oh yeah, no, she did. Yeah, there's a lot of parallels and with other doctors too that she just did, which is so great.
Yeah,
and so again, can't say enough about her. She's fantastic. Well, I think we've come to the final thoughts portion of the show. It took us 50 minutes when we got here.
Hey, well, this is a longer episode of Doctor Who, so it's naturally a longer episode of our reviews.
Yes, you're right. Okay, sure. Okay. I can go first.
All right.
Okay, so yeah, I loved this episode. I thought it was fantastic. Love Jodie Whittaker. I love the companions. I think that it's so different what Chibs is doing, and which is good, because as much as I loved Moffat's stuff, which I really did, I felt like it was, after 7 years, it was getting a little stale and maybe a little predictable. So this threw so much into it. I was a little disappointed that they killed Nan at the end. I was like, no, why are you doing this? 3 people have already died. Like, don't kill Nan. But it's one of those things that propels the other characters forward, I suppose. Yeah, I agree with you. The music kind of hurt it a little bit, but I have hopes. This he's a new talent. Hopefully he's gonna do great things, and there was some good music in there. But for the most part, this was a great opener for a new Doctor. It really set the tone for like how good the rest of this season is going to be. I don't have like any reservations about the rest of the season. I'm super excited to see the next one. They're on some alien planet in the next one, so that's fantastic. And then I know they're gonna go see Rosa Parks in another one. So like, I'm so excited for where this is gonna go. So I loved it. I give this one a 9 out of 10.
Well, I hate to go against the grain. I do. look, this was a really good start for the 13th Doctor, okay? Jodie absolutely shines. She is the star of this show more than just being the star. She is the star. She completely shines throughout the episode as the best possible thing to watch. The companions are people of passions and loves and truths and secrets and realities, and they are revealing themselves through the course of this adventure, and it is just a thrill to see them and to see her and to see how they interact and how they coexist. The story was enjoyable. The monster was very Doctor Who. So as a beginning to Doctor Who, at the beginning of to the 13th Doctor, absolutely great. A different tone than we've seen before. One which begins to pull a lot of the darker, maybe heavier elements from Broadchurch, which is nice to see. However, the biggest letdown in this episode is the music. It's a terrible soundtrack, filled with boring and inconsequential mood music, completely ripping out one of the hearts of this show. And for me, it was enough damage to this episode to make me stand up and say, I don't want to watch it again. For the first time since Fear Her, I don't want to watch an episode of Doctor Who again. And that kills a piece of this show. I only give it a 6 out of 10.
Well, it's the end of the show, which brings us to... it's been a while. Let's do it again. Oh my God, the promo.
That promo.
Oh my God, that promo.
It's, you know what? So seeing the season or the episode 2 trailer, meh. I was more excited about seeing all of the people who are going to be in this season of Doctor Who. So right before the credits, they play this sort of like, and wait, look what we're going to do. And they just show little bits of each of the people from the episodes and played it with the Doctor Who theme. And I thought that was great. I was really excited for that.
Yeah.
But then we saw the season 2 trailer, and I was like, meh, all right. Sure.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. The guest stars, I was like, whoa, that person? Oh, no way, that person?
Yeah.
And they were just like some really big names. Like Alan Cummings, that's fantastic that he's going to be on Doctor Who.
It's huge.
But the next time trailer, for episode 2, you're right. It was just a lot of they're running around, there's some explosions. There wasn't really much of anything that made me go, oh, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, just yeah. Hopefully it's. I'm not worried that the episode's not going to be good, but there used to be great trailers. We've talked about this at length too, but yeah.
The promos used to be so good, and it wasn't just that they showed you things that you were really salivating for. They built every coming soon had almost felt like it had a first, second, and third act all on its own, and it showed you a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and how those two things might come together, and then a big reveal. And those promos, especially season 4 and season 5 and season 6, those promos blew your mind at how good they were, and some of them just are outstanding. I will never forget the coming soon trailer for the final episode of season 4 for Journey's End, and just replaying footage we had kind of already seen, and then playing just a little bit that's new and fresh with just Davros doing that speech on top of it is chilling and is 100% on how you do a promo. This was just here's some stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, there's here's some footage. It's they're running
planet.
Around, yeah.
Hey, see that part? She's got a sonic screwdriver. She's using a screwdriver. So okay.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Hopefully they get better, and but if we talk about the guest stars, there looks like there's going to be a lot of, historical stuff. It looked like
I was surprised. Lee Mack, who's a comedian overnight. So we're American. A lot of people I see on that list, I had to look up. I'm not going to lie. There are a lot of people I was like, well, I don't know who that is. That's somebody, but I don't know. But I know Lee Mack because I watch 8 out of 10 Cats Does Countdown, and I'm like, he's on 8 out of 10 Cats Does Countdown.
Oh, there you go.
That's a British thing. So I was excited to see them. I was like, yeah, there we go. Knew someone. Point.
Well, I think that's about all the time we have. I don't have anything else, so
thanks for
listening,
tuning
everybody.
in, guys.
Yeah.
Hey, make sure you go, like us on all the social medias. We are all over the place, and most importantly, we are on Spotify as well as iTunes. Both of those amazing platforms. So go subscribe to us.
Yes, you can subscribe to us on YouTube. So just search Voices from the Vortex on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, which is iTunes, and then
Google Play. We're on Google Play as well.
Yeah, exactly. So find us on there and social media. We're at Vortex Podcast on Twitter, and we have a Facebook group. So
yeah. If you have any questions whatsoever, you want to send in a question for us, want us to talk about something on air, or just want to respond to something that we said, please by all means do so. voicesfromthevortex@gmail.com. And we will be happy to start receiving more mail, be it good, hopefully all good. Please don't yell at us too much, and just love to hear from you.
Well, that's it. And as we say on every episode, when you got teeth in your face, I don't know, you finish it.
You got all that bass. I don't know.
All right, goodbye, everybody.
See ya.
To the Vortex.
To the Vortex. This has been a review of Doctor Who, Series 11, by the Voices from the Vortex. Starring Matt Whitecamp as the Bachelor, Taylor Davidson as the Associate, and Danielle Davidson as the sexy voice of the TARDIS. All views and opinions expressed are those of the two dudes from Gallifrey and do not represent Doctor Who nor the BBC. Follow Voices from the Vortex on social media, including Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Subscribe to us on iTunes or Spotify. Just search for Voices from the Vortex. If you have any questions for the podcast, please email us at voicesfromthevortex@gmail.com. Doctor Who and all related materials are copyright BBC, and no infringement of copyright is intended. It's heavily implied, but never intended. All material by the two dudes from Gallifrey should be considered fan fiction, and is made in a satirical nature. However, if you're listening to this and you're Chris Chibnall, you should consider hiring us, as we're both extremely talented and very hilarious. Just ask our mothers. See you next time in the Vortex.
Temporal flight engaged. Returning to the Vortex. End of transmission.
To the Vortex!